Hi, and welcome back to Torah and Psychology. I hope you guys are having as much fun as I'm having because I love this series. I think it's so relevant to take the little things that we find ourselves talking about and expressing in this world and bring them into a Torah, Emunah, faithful perspective. Because, we are subject to our culture. We're subject to the funny things that our culture teaches us to express or believe in. I sort of want to break some of those shackles because I don't actually believe that those ways of thinking are necessarily according to the ways of Torah. So, dear God, please help us have a beautiful class today. Thank you for being here with us. And here we go. Actually, just going to turn these right around so I think they'll look better that way. Okay, match me. How cool is that? All right. So today I want to talk about a popular expression in modern pop psychology, or two of them rather. And these are, I literally can't even, or the expression, so annoying. Have you ever found yourself saying either of these popular expressions today? An example would be, oh my God, the weather, I can't, or like, ugh, like I got a parking ticket, so annoying. So maybe if you're watching this, you're in the generation above me, and that sounds bratty or immature to you. Well, it might be. And it is something that's really taken hold of this generation. I think that if you had to look at all the unpleasant hashtags that you'll find on social media or whatever, or just if you'll just hear people saying these expressions, so annoying, or I literally can't even, I just can't. Right. So this is modern lingo. And even if you don't use those expressions, perhaps you use others, and perhaps you can use some of the lessons from today to apply to your life as well. So today, as we had back when we did the class on FOMO, I'm sourcing from my extremely professional document. I use this to teach my students because oftentimes I find that handwritten is more appealing. They're so accustomed to source pages and typing that it loses the personal touch. So here I am presenting you about I can't even, and we're going to do about 8 points today that help us really understand how to, as if, rewire our brain so that we can walk through the world from a more Torahic perspective. So first of all, like this. Oftentimes, and again, I'm trying to think, I want to make this more applicable to all ages and generations watching this. So I guess expression that someone might use is like, I don't even want to deal with this, or I can't deal. That's good for the older generation. I can't deal with this, right? Or whatever. It's sort of an expression of yeush, of despair. And we know from Rabbi Nachman, ein yeush ba'olam klal. The truth of the matter is there is no despair in this world. Even if a situation is extremely unpleasant for you, we can just refer to that trust we were talking about, and we will talk about. It has to do with tuning into the fact that God does things for a reason. But beyond that, we just want to check in and we want to go back to the Garden of Eden, Act 1, Scene 1. And there we have the snake. And the snake is notorious for tripping up Adam and Eve, and he does so by this lying, this sheker. And when I say lying like that, it's because I'm indicating the tongue of the snake. Maybe we've talked about this before. I think of all the animals, why does the snake's tongue go in two different directions? Because it's known as the liar. And we don't want to be the snake. We don't want to be the liar. And we will not lie to others if, and only if, we are not lying to ourselves. And so the problem with uttering phrases like I can't, or I literally can't even, or so annoying, or I just can't deal with this, is that actually they're not true. They're not true. It's not true. I mean, God only gives us things that we can deal with. We know this. Doesn't mean we want to. Doesn't mean they're easy. But the truth is, whatever that situation is in your life that you feel right now is too overwhelming for you, it might be overwhelming. And we could certainly empathize with you. But to believe that I can't, or just to label it as so annoying, are actually really detrimental to the soul because they put us in a space of sheker, of non-truth. And when we're in a place of sheker, we'll both lie to ourselves, we'll end up lying to others. And most importantly, when we're not in line with emotional honesty, what we have is a disconnect from our own feelings and ourself. Because when I say ourself, I mean our soul. And our soul really knows that everything that happens is for the best. Gamzu Latova. Actually, just down the road, there's the gravesite of a man. It's just in the middle of a neighborhood. It's so wild. Named Nachum Ish Gamzu. This means Nachum was his name, the man of Gamzu, of this too. Nachum, the man of this too, well, this too is for the good, because he had such profound security in God and the way God runs the world, such profound trust that he knew that everything happened was essentially for the good, but not also for the good, but good in and of itself. There's even a story where he, gosh, I'm not sure if I'm going to get the story right, but essentially it's something along the lines of the Jews were meant to send treasure to the king. And I think he was the emissary for this treasure. But again, forgive me, I might not be getting this story correct. It just came to my mind to bring in now. It's not within my notes. And at the end of the day, a thief came in the middle of the night and he stole the treasure and he replaced it with sand. And so when he arrived at the king and the king opened it, said, "What are you doing? You're sending me dirt? Like, what's wrong with you Jews?" And oh yeah, and it was Nachum Ish Gamzu who said, "No, this is the magical dirt of the Jews. This can, in war, it can turn into arrows." And because he was so committed to believing that everything God does was for the good, Gamzu Latova, that in fact, it actually worked out that way. And our words did create our reality. And we often say, we have this expression from magicians, right? Where they're doing a magic trick and initially there's nothing in the hat. And then they wave their hand over the hat and they say, abracadabra. And then all of a sudden there's a white pigeon coming out of the hat. How do they do that? Well, abracadabra actually comes out of the Gemara, out of the Talmud. And it says abracadabra is bara ke dabera, abracadabra, abracadabra. Abracadabra means I create according to how I speak, right? So my words really do have an impact on me, and they really do have an impact on the reality that I'm creating, but even more so because I think if you're already watching this, you already know that inside. But again, it's great to have these little reminders. The main thing is it disconnects us from ourselves, because our soul is a piece of God. And God, they say, I learned this from my teacher, Moralea Golem, that if God was a king that had like a physical king in this world, and God had like a wax seal, you know how you see those movies from the Renaissance or back in the day, and they had the kings put like a wax seal, and then they put their stamp in it and reveals this beautiful italics, calligraphied, my initials are NBS. So it'd be NBS, right? That would be their stamp. Well, it says that if God had a stamp and you removed it, you would see the word emet, truth. So if God is truth and I have a piece of truth in me, then when I say things like I can't, or I literally can't even, or I can't deal with this, or this is so annoying, I'm disconnecting myself from truth. And that's really big because a lot of us feel deeply disconnected from self, or we don't feel like ourselves. You've heard people say, I just don't feel like myself. I know I'm more vivacious than this. I know I'm more special than the way I'm living. I know I don't feel myself. Well, there's a lot of reasons we don't feel ourselves because we're not true to ourselves, both in how we behave. And I'm totally guilty of this. And please, God should bless me to improve, but also in how we speak. We're literally telling ourselves lies. I can't even deal. I can't deal with this. And it's like, we can hear our pain. We can hear our stress or our strife, and we can have empathy and sympathy for ourselves and be like, wow, I really don't want to deal with this, or, oh, it's hard for me when it's cold outside and raining when I have to do this or that. But then at least we're honest and sympathetic with ourselves as opposed to just lying. Also, I can't, or this is so annoying. These are exaggerations usually. And exaggerations, I once learned from a friend of mine, are an actual expression that the truth is not good enough. You know what, if you're upset, that is good enough. You're allowed to feel upset, and you're allowed to be frustrated or annoyed at something, and that's okay. We don't have to turn it into something that it isn't, because again, that will create a disconnect from self. So maybe you knew, right? Maybe you already knew your words create reality. Maybe you already knew not to utter sentences or expressions like this, but I'm not sure if it was conscious in everyone's reality that one of the reasons to do this is because it creates a disconnect, because our essence is truth. So point 2 that I'd like to bring up is again, we've mentioned this before in other episodes, is drama culture, right? So I've mentioned a few times, I'm from LA and Hollywood, and like, oh my God, like I totally actually used to talk like this as a teenager. Like, oh my God, did you see what David wore to school today? You know, like I actually did speak like this at one point in my life. But even if you're not from LA and you're not from Hollywood, I would place a bet that you spent many hours of your life watching Western television. And I will give you one of my favorite examples because I find it to be really helpful. So, L'chaim, you know, me and my bubbly water. Cheers. I already made a blessing. All right, so let's say you're watching, when you were younger, an episode of it's set in a teenage high school. I don't know, Saved by the Bell, Full House, any of these, Beverly Hills 90210, for the younger generation, like, I don't know, High School Musical. I don't know. Just imagine you're watching like a standard pop television show. Now, the girl, this is all made up, but it should help us understand. The girl slams her locker on her nail by accident. And so how does the episode go? Oh my God, I broke a nail. Like now, like Daniel's not even going to invite me to the school dance. Like, my nails are not permanent. I'm like, oh my God, right? And it's fun to watch because it's, you know, it is exaggerated and, you know, it keeps us interested. But the weird thing is we've started to behave like this. Here's a little proof, right? So if you think about such an episode, and then you thought, all right, what if we rewired this episode to teach health and emotional resilience and honesty with self and connection to self? Well, this is how the episode would have to look, right? So again, let's say she slams the locker on her nail, and let's say the school dances the next night. And let's say this is how it went. Wow, Baruch Hashem, that hurts so bad. Oh, I'm so sad because I really wanted to have nice nails for the dance tomorrow night. All right, well, praise the Lord. I know this was for my best. Okay, I'll breathe through this. Anyways, are you okay? She asks her friend, right? None of us are watching that episode. You're not going to get masses and millions of people to watch that because it's not as exciting, right? Drama is exciting. But the problem with what drama does is it puts us into what's called mochin de katnut. So this is a Hasidic idea that there's really two ways of thinking about things in general. We could have a mochin de katnut, which is translated sort of as small-mindedness. Mochin comes from the word moach, your mind. Katnut comes from the word katan, small. Alternatively, like the second fake girl in the locker episode, we could have a mochin de gadlut. Again, mochin from the word mind and gadlut from the word gadol, or big, like like large-minded. In other words, seeing the whole story and having a greater understanding for the whole picture of life as opposed to just zooming in on that very moment. And so unfortunately, what drama culture has done to us as a collective, and granted, we're not victims of anything, but we do come from and are influenced by the culture we're in, is this drama culture of I literally can't even, or so annoying, like I can't even deal with this. And I hear really conscious people saying things like that, like I can't even deal with this. And like, obviously I'm not going to get on the speaker and be like, drama, mochin de katnut, right? I'm not going to do that. And I behave this way as well. But it's very good for us to have this perspective of, wow, have I emerged from drama culture? Am I lying to myself through my exaggerations and therefore disconnecting myself from myself and from trusting God? Okay. So again, with this, I can't. I would love to tell you one of my favorite stories. Yeah. So in high school, I was not religious and I was still watching movies galore and whatever it was. And there was this one movie that I really loved, but like I think it's totally inappropriate even for me now that I'm like twice my own age since then. But it was called Love and Basketball. It was adorable if you're into inappropriate teenage flicks. And it was like all the characters, it's important just culturally, so this is not on PC, just like deal with it. It's like like most movies are like all white people, so this movie's all Black people, and it's set in like a Black cultural or African American, however you want to say it. I love my Black African American people, there's no hatred here, God forbid. I kind of have envy, if anything. But anyway, so there's this one kid and he's living in this mansion, and you see it's because his dad is like an NBA star. And so like they have this like amazing setup. And the kid is sitting on the couch, and he's a teenage kid and he's really frustrated with something. And he screams out in the middle of the scene, "I can't effing do this," right? But he doesn't say effing, he says the word, right? And so you see like his parents look startled in the background, and his dad comes over and he says, "Son, we do not use that word in our house. Can't is a curse word around here." Right? So you think that the father's going to address the fact that his high school kid just screamed the F word, "I can't effing do this." But actually in this home, and I thought this was so awesome and beautiful, what the father's reprimanding the son for is saying, "I can't." As we said, yes, our words create reality, but even more, and I think we have mentioned this in other episodes, is there's this concept in Judaism that the amount you can receive is the amount you believe you can receive. And through our words, we don't just create reality, we create what's called kelim, we create vessels to then receive the blessings. When we are using our words to convince ourselves that I can't, or it's so annoying, or can't deal with this, we've sort of shattered those vessels that then are able to hold the light, that are able to hold the blessings. In fact, when we say I can't, or I literally can't, or like so annoying, I'm creating also a choser shalom, like a lack of peace inside of me. And we know, according to the Netivot Shalom, the Slonim Rebbe, and I learned this from my mentor, Chanor Fruman, that the greatest, the vessel for all blessings is peace. Therefore, if I do not have peace within my heart, or within my environment, within my family, or whatever it is, God forbid, if I don't have peace, then I don't have a vessel. And therefore all the blessings can come, but they'll just flow through, because the vessel to receive the blessings is peace. And when I say these sort of words of dismay, I'm sort of shattering that vessel, and then I cannot receive further blessings. Now, let's say somebody is in the practice of saying, I can't, I literally can't even, or so annoying, or just any of these expressions that sort of condemn our abilities. What do you think happens as a result when you say that? Yes, we believe it. Also, it kind of encourages snobbery. It encourages us to close down, to be uptight, rather than open and courageous and honest with our feelings, right? We're allowed to be upset. It's okay. But to demean ourselves and utter words like, I can't, those rob us of our abilities to overcome. You want to ask yourself, like, what makes a hero? What makes a role model? Someone who's not snobby or self-centered and closed down and uptight, but someone who is courageous. So think of who you admire, right? I want everyone to please think of who you admire. Think of your childhood hero. Think of your favorite character in a movie. Who do you admire? Who is a hero to you? Because I would put money on it, maybe. I would put money on it that the reason that person is heroic to you or has been a role model is because they had challenges that they overcame. That's like pretty much, if you want to define a hero or a role model, most people fit into the category who are role models of, because I overcame something. Now imagine if that role model or that hero, even Superman or even Spider-Man, like looked at the next building and was like about to shoot his like sticky web, and he's like, I can't, I literally can't even. Like, this would destroy all heroes and role models. So in fact, we could start to understand that And all of the forefathers and all the foremothers in the Bible, they all had incredible challenges that they needed to surmount that made them who they were. And imagine you have Avram Avinu, God's like, hey, why don't you do Brit Milah? Why don't you do circumcision? Avram's like, I can't, I literally cannot even, I cannot deal. Then we wouldn't have had a Jewish nation in and of itself. And that essentially, part of being a Jew and in this world is really being that little engine that could. Again, imagine if we rewrote that book and it became the little engine that couldn't. I think I can't. I think I can't. I think I can't. Like, that would not be a bestseller. I think people would ban it from their homes for their children. And if you too would ban this book, I can't, the little engine that couldn't, from your children reading it, then why are we letting ourselves say these words to ourselves? Yeah. 2 more points. And I hope that this is inspiring you also to think about the expressions that you might typically say or hear other people typically say, and see if they are keeping you in line with our role in this world, with our role as Jews who are really meant to be heroic and overcoming. Am HaNetzach, we're supposed to be the nation that perseveres. We're known for our resilience. And yet in our generation, we're getting a really big challenge to that essence of our Jewish character. So I learned another beautiful thing from my mentor, Chana Chalferman, and she says, there's an important skill in life, and that skill is called dealing with things I don't want to deal with. And, initially I wanted to name this episode, I Can't, but I think I will call it instead, dealing with things I don't want to deal with. And, we all have that, whatever it is, whether it's rain outside or changing another diaper or taxes. I could relate to that one. Or whatever, or a person that's frustrating to us, or whatever it is, there is a skill, an actual skill in life called learning to deal with things I don't want to deal with. And when I heard this at first, I was like, oh, snap. That's right. That would be a really beneficial skill for me to add to my, cornucopia of adulting, of dealing with life well, is this skill, developing this skill, learning how to deal with things I don't want to deal with. Honestly, if I had only said that, I feel like we had a successful episode, because, sometimes we get stuck mentally, and sometimes you just need a little switch to go off to be like, oh, that would be a great skill to develop, And here's another one. Yeah. So this whole thing with I literally can't even, or just the I can'ts, right? Or maybe I should call this the little engine that could. You tell me you give me feedback after this episode. What do you think? What do you think it should be called? But there's something that's the most important, is when we say I can't, not only are we disconnecting from self, not only are we putting ourselves in the place of sheker, of non-truth, not only are we practicing exaggeration and drama culture and mochin de katnut and limiting what we can receive and moving into snobbery, like the princess and the pea, and closing down and getting more uptight, as opposed to getting more courageous and more open and more heroic. On top of all of that, we're really missing the point of everything, because who is sending you this test in the first place? Who is creating this challenge that you don't want to deal with in the first place? Why are you even getting this challenge in the first place? And then we remember, right. I was missing the whole point. The whole point of this challenge is actually from God to me specifically. In fact, there's a Baal Shem Tov teaching, and again, maybe we've talked about it before, but that everything I see, everything I taste, everything I experience, everyone I encounter, even, today I was praying by a holy gravesite, and there was this crazy guy like really hounding me for charity. And I was really annoyed with him because I was so annoyed because he had come into the women's side, and I was trying to pray, and I don't want this, frankly, fat, smelly man on the women's side while I'm trying to pray to God. But I missed the point, because I forgot that God is the one that sent me this challenge in the first place to deal with. And the idea, and this is kind of like the clencher, pinpoint, suck it to me thing is, am I learning from life's tests and growing from them and developing this skill called dealing with things I don't want to deal with and developing my trust in my emunah, or am I throwing the tests out? Because God lets, God lets us throw the tests away. If we don't want to deal with it, because I can't, it's like, all right, well, I'll just send you another one later, but I don't know if you're going to like it very much, We could just keep throwing out the test, but then God's going to have to be like, good morning, good morning, good morning, and hopefully it doesn't get stronger, like, good morning, wake up. You have to deal with this quality. You have to deal with your, patience or impatience or struggle with negativity or a vibe of gloom and doom or vibe of self-pity or whatever it is, whatever your challenge is when these tests emerge. The real question is, am I missing the point that God is the one sending me this test in the first place? Or am I seeing it happen, paying attention to myself, opening my mochun de gadlut, tuning into peace to receive, and turning myself into a Torah hero? I was working with a client this week, and she was saying to me, Neely, like this praying thing, I think she said it's so annoying. Good ashkacha. This praying thing is so annoying. Like, why do I have to just keep saying the same words every day? I don't want to be in that place of like being a beggar of God or having a lack or ask. And so she's like, everything is good by me. I live a good life. I like have everything I need. I this, that, and the other. Like, I have everything. But what she was missing is the learning from life's tests and the learning from these opportunities to grow, frankly. It's like God gives us our life on a silver platter, not to be like an entertainmentocracy, not like to be entertained all the time. That's not why we're here. We're not here just to have it good. We're here to get these tests. We're here to make ourselves a hero. And what I kind of pointed out to her is like, sister, listen, there's like 8 billion people in the world. And yeah, there's around 14 million Jews, but that means like totally assimilated all the way to the ultra-Orthodox. And those of us that really try to practice Judaism as a way of life to improve our character, we're extremely few in number. Let's say the religious ones, or not to say religious or not religious, because that's a silly word, but the ones that are really working on their character, it's usually associated with religiosity. People are paying attention. People are, in religious schools, they literally learn about character traits and try to improve them, and they're encouraged to do so. I'm sure not religious schools also, but there's a special focus. As I said, we're like, I don't know, I'd put the number at like 1 million. If that's true, if there's 1 million of us that are really trying to work on ourselves and see life as everything coming from God, and everything is a test of our emunah, everything is a secret test of our faith, everything is here to help us expand ourselves, develop ourselves, deal with things that we don't want to deal with grace. So if that's true, that there's only about 1 million of us and there's 8 billion people, well, I think if you divide that makes each one of us responsible for like 800 or 8,000. I don't know. Math is, I'll let you do the calculations, but it makes us responsible for a lot of people's lives. In terms of the idea that, we're not meant to be here to be so-so. We're not meant here to be average. We're not meant to be here to like just be okay with this cultural standard that says like, I literally can't even. It's like so annoying. Like, that's not why we're here. We're here to feel those feelings, to again, feel self-compassion and empathy for ourselves. And then to blast through, to be Amma Netzach, to be these heroes and these role models that we've spoken about. Because if you go back biblically to any of the characters, to Joseph, oh my God, David, Moses, how many times because Moses just said like, I can't. And the question is like, My teacher Leah always says, who gave them exclusive rights? Nobody gave them exclusive rights to be like Sarah, Rachel, Leah, Rivka. Nobody gave the forefathers, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, David, Yosef. Nobody gave them exclusive rights to be unbelievable. What made them unbelievable, I would say, is perhaps practicing the shir, is learning how to deal with things in life they don't want to deal with in a way that is emotionally honest and self-compassionate and helps us not miss the point. And that point being that everything is from God, and therefore specifically catered to you, and therefore specifically the exact test you need. Not so that we could tell ourselves we can't, but rather so that we can begin to open our hearts to how much we really can. And again, this doesn't mean being a martyr. It doesn't mean taking on responsibilities you don't want to take on. It doesn't mean doing anything resentfully. It means looking at the circumstance, having compassion and empathy for what comes up, realizing where it's coming from, and knowing deeply, I can. I can. And we don't want to face that. I don't want to face that. I don't want to face that the really difficult things in my life right now I actually can deal with, but it is imperative, because the minute I know I can, I am empowered and it is possible. And that despair goes out the window, which is like, again, the antithesis to who we are. And the moment I can't, I'm nothing and I don't matter. And what the hell? And screw this, God forbid. That's not the attitude we're meant to take. So I bless us, myself, and I bless you to know that that thing in your life, and let's just pause for a moment. And why don't we ask you that thing in your life that you feel that you can't? What is it, right? It could be a relationship with a parent, a spouse, a child, a sibling, financial woes, a health issue. By the way, saying I can't in regards to health issues, especially chronic ones or cancer, is extremely detrimental. When we say we can and we believe we can, and we know God gave us this to pass the test, not to fail it, that's when we can begin to heal. So I ask you, what is that thing that is so very hard for you that you feel that you can't? And are you willing to open up a possibility to maybe you can? And maybe this is just called learning to deal with something I don't want to deal with. And maybe we are the little engine that could. And then maybe our soul is like, realigns with truth. And then we can connect to ourselves and have the power to go forward to really approach and handle that difficulty in our lives. So even though it is very humbling and very difficult to admit that we can, I bless us to try it out, even just one time, even just with one little thing. We totally can even. Yeah. So may Hashem bless us to just increase our awareness, to get the point, to learn from the tests, and to become the hero that we actually can be for ourselves, for other people, for the whole nation, for the whole universe. This is what we're here for. Yeah. Go team. I need a hero. Da, 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 da. Or should we go to Mariah Carey? There's a hero if you look inside your heart. Okay. Thanks, y'all. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. See you next time on Torah and Psychology. Peace.